Hi, hi everyone. So my name is Henrique. I am a Brazilian, live in London, so you can note by the accent. Um, Today my talk is about building lovable UIs. What it means exactly is about how do we feel as developers when building products, and of course the end user is going to benefit from it as well. And just before React, right? This is how we would. I would start a project. We didn't have this kind of notion of components. Was always trying to match the designs, uh, and then I would have in my CSS files, import some stuff, and at the end import the page. So everything was pretty much page-driven development, right? So you would receive like a PSD, you would try match as much as possible. As you design, you would have these three separations, and everyone was happy. Most of the case, and for years was like the holy grail of the web developers. So markup, we would use a JS for some UI and then the CSS for styling. Um, but then I start to realize, you know what? Um, isn't markup, JavaScript, and styling the UI kind of helps compose the UI? So this now kind of makes more sense now. So we have the UI, and then we have our JavaScript layer, and with the markup and the styling, CSS using CSS models or inline style, and this is why nowadays I start to use React. Um, so React was specifically built for user interfaces, and user interfaces is pretty much everything you see designed into the design into the screen is an UI, and everything in your screen should be a component unless you are building I don't know, like a static block. And components are kind of the building blocks of the application. So today, and the first thing I think like to have two things in mind when I'm designing components is encapsulation and composition. So encapsulation means the component is really selfish, so doesn't care about anything what's going on outside it, doesn't care about the data, there's no access to the app state, and the nice thing is you have control. You give the component the control you want to each parts of the state the component will affect. And here I have like an example. It's my kind of just reading list I'm using as example. So we should be able to instantiate this component anywhere in our application or even in different apps. So it's a great way to develop today in separation. Here's a kind of new open source project that Chris Pierce from Listable is working on. Is called Recon.js. So the idea is you have your component, you have the fixtures, so you can just see how the component works. You see how all the props can play a bit. Um, so I have in the end of the slides, I have links to all the tools I mentioned now. And there is also a lot of tools trying to solve the kind of similar problem. Cosmos, Atelier, React, Styly, um, and what else? And yes, React Storybook as well. It's kind of new one. So I think the main importance of encapsulation it's about reusability, maintainability, and testability. So it's very easy to reuse the code, to maintain, to change or upgrade your component, or even get rid of the component without affect the whole application. And then the second one, okay, great. We have the encapsulation, But now, how does the components talk to each other? So we use a composition. Um, so let's combine elements to build new elements, and those are like the building blocks I mentioned before to build a component. So here, let's say we have like a message item component. So you can compose it from like headline text components. And I have a better example on the next slide. So here's my reading item, and then so I'm composing with a box. I'm going to show later what's this. What's like a low level component for layout. Then I have the headline, I have the text, I have the link, and I have the image. So composition works really great, and I think it's the holy grail. We all want to be in a place where at some point we stop developing new components and we are only composing components. And this is why I think a composition and encapsulation together are great for developer experiences. So it's very easy for new developers to build the features, uh, to reuse what you have done already. And I think one important tool you must be in place is you must document your components. So you need to find a way there. Like I said, there is at least 4 or 5 really good frameworks that you can use. Um, but yes, you need to have a place where people can go and check the components. Here I have the example like Rebest from Jake. Um, it's a very in this case it's a framework, but it's just an example of how good it is to have a page where you can go and can see how the components works, the props. It's a living style guide. So I think it's important to have this in place. And well, visual consistency comes for free. I think when you achieve this, I mean, not always, because if you build a rubbish component, it's going to be rubbish anyway. But the idea is now you are composing from the components we have, so the visual consistency is there. And how do we get there? I think the most important principle and kind of shifted your mindset is about designing components, not pages. So what it means, we came from the that stage where we would think about the home page, the user account page. Now we need to have a holistic view about our product, and this is why it's very important to need to learn how to abstract components, and we can borrow. There is a lot of good concepts if you look in the design systems. So atomic design, there's a good article from Dan Mao about content and display path, and also functional CSS. So like I said, there is kind of links after in the end of the slides. But yes, definitely we can kind of borrow some good concepts from a lot of places. So this is one example. Like let's try to identify, how this component looks like, and you can see. I'm also thinking like in semantics. So I want to have like headers. I want to have the article, and yes, we need to try to abstract. For example, if you see the read item component, I could maybe start and do like the mistake and create like a sub headline component. But no, let's try to abstract this to a headline and then say the level. And just coming back here, we have this box element, right? This it's kind of just a low level component, and they are great. This is how kind of my box component looks like. It's just a stateless component. So I have in my layout.js, I have like a box. I have like a text, which returns like a span. Then you can have a link, you can have an image, and you can pass properties and override the properties as well. And this compose style, what it does, just to make sure that we are picking the right style property. So um, when you pass a property to the component that's not a style, it's not going to apply to your style. And then we come to like naming. That is really hard, and for me it's really hard. I really suck at naming. Sometimes I don't start a side project because I don't know how to call it. I just get stuck, you know. But there is like three things kind of helps me to come with a good naming. So I think always about is a content based, or it's a visual element, or is a functional element. Just a like very kind of stupid as an example, but don't give your components like names that are too much specific, right? You have like image cards or story title. Um, Here we need to learn how to abstract it. And that's okay if we start with a bad name. You can always find while you are building your product, you're going to discover where the abstractions are. And then the content based, so it says everything. So the contents they contain. For example, here I have let's say a user status. So I know that is the status of the user, but also this don't give me you like any hint about the styling, how this component looks like. It's like a green circle, or it's an avatar with a green circle. And also it's very specific to the content, so you wouldn't use this component to build new components. So it's very specific to your application. The visual names are the easy ones, like presentational. So it's the way they look. Let's say I have my headline components. So only looking to the components, I have a pretty kind of clear idea how this is going to look like without check the stylings. Then finally the last one is the functional names, is their function or meaning or utility. Let's say you have a resizable components, or maybe you have a flexbox component, or I don't know, like a grid component. So this kind of three categories helps me to when I need to come with namings. And then I think there is also important to understand the difference between containers components and presentational components. There's a really good article from Dan about this on Medium. So basically, your container kind of just talks to stars and keep the data, and then pass to the presentational. So I have my reading list page, which fetch the API, fetch the JSON, and then pass the JSON to my list. So the container, there is like no markup or styling. They are often stateful, and they kind of serve as data sources to the presentational components. So here's one example I have. Like let's say my reading list page. So I'm fetching my JSON, and then I'm setting the stories to the state, and then passing the data down to the reading list. And then we have the presentational component, which is usually handles markup and styling. There is no state, but if you need the state, use it only for UI, don't use for data to handle the data. And they are often written as functional components. So here's an example like how the reading list would look like. Just receiving the data and then mapping this data and populating my list with the reading item component. And finally, the third one is a pure component. I see like a bit of confusion sometimes. People say pure components are always like stateless, so they can be stateless, or they can uh, they can have state as well. So you can use a class or function like pure components. What it means is they return you the given props and states. So you can write as class or functions, but you should use like pure functions, and they are often stateless. This is just for example, like I have in my text, my low level component, how would it look like a test to just return the span. So classes or functions, I see a lot of discussion around. I think it doesn't. Um, I think it's the wrong question. So there's a lot of benefits using classes. You can use the states. You can use all the lifecycle components, the hooks, and they also can be optimized via shallow compare. So what shallow compare does like a deep comparison in your object. So the first block is the default using React add-on shallow compare, and the second one I would really suggest use Immutable.js. If then you can just check. You can avoid the object deep comparison and check it only the prop you want, and this is going to avoid the component to re-render. So that's a kind of good benefits from the class. Then the functional components. There is some kind of drawbacks, but for me they are limitations or the strengths. So you don't have a state, you don't have a refs or no life cycle hooks, but there is also no side effects, and they're really good to build abstraction, and they work in small or large projects. So like I say, the classes or functions, I mean, when possible, write stateless functions. To be honest, sometimes I start, if I'm not sure, I just start writing as class, then you can always convert later to functions. Understand the drawbacks of each one. Functions, you can't really optimize it, functional components just yet. I know the React core team is working on it. And the most important thing is heavy fun, really. Yeah, so I don't want to talk too much. So Alex is talking after me about inline styles. Just kind of mention briefly. But yes, I mean, I love CSS. I don't have anything against CSS, but inline style kind of makes a lot of sense now. There's some good kind of benefits on using it's easy to bundle, so we don't need an extra loader to the CSS. You can use constants private by default. If you want to use a powerful animation like React Emotion, so you can control the animation on JavaScript, so we don't rely more on CSS transition for this. So there is like some benefits in use. And this is just one example. And for me, inline style is CSS, so it's very close to CSS. It's still in CSS because the definition of CSS is for styling the document, but rather styling the document or styling the component. So it's still like CSS. So yeah, as you can see, there isn't like much difference in use. And finally, so I'm running out of time. Animation, for me, there's like 3 checklists. So just use animation if you can improve it. If it's for improving usability, if it feels natural. I like the idea about invisible animations. You can Google. There's an article on Medium about this. But the idea is you shouldn't really see the animation. You shouldn't see what's going on. And then finally, it should give a feedback to the user. So if you can tick it like there's 3 items. So yes, let's do it. The way I have been using animation with inline styles is I have a component that works like a wrapper. So I have here like my animate component, uh, and then I'm just passing the props animate. It's not a really good name, but just means okay, um, everything's loaded, animate is true, so you can animate the component. And here is like a very simple like transition example of how this would look like. So I have my styles, and then I'm just checking, passing the root, and then checking if the props is true. Then okay, then change the translate to 0, and you're going to have the animation going on. I think the benefit in use this wrapper is because if you want to use like a React emotion, you could like pass a property and say, okay, I want to use this library now. I haven't really done anything yet, uh, but yes, I think it's like a concept. It could work well. So the idea is you have this um, wrapper, animate wrapper, then you have use for basic animations, and when you want to choose React Emotion or another library, then it can work kind of underneath. Future of React. So there is I think what it means for Loveable UIs. There, if you watch the Bean Alpert's talk, he briefly mentioned about what they are bringing in terms of animation and the gestures as well. So they're trying to bring a lot of things from React Native to web, and there is also the layout system. So that's Facebook is working on, and kind of relies on inline styling. So this is why they kind of decided to go to inline style. It's not because they don't like CSS, but because the React now can know, okay, if it is if it is items or off your viewport, React it doesn't care. I don't need it to do anything. And yeah, some links in reference. And yes, thanks.
We might have time for one question.
The inline styles is great, but how do you then handle the responsive websites? Where do you put that kind of common code?
Yeah, so I had the one slide. I remove it. The you can use like a Radium that does for you all the pseudo classes and the media queries, but there is also a kind of proposal around the container queries, which is the idea is uh, rather work on the media queries that is globally. The container queries works in the components, and it just cares about the parent widgets. There are like a few polyfills trying to solve it. So the um, container is like the container as a pseudo class, but there isn't yet kind of an agreement on the API, and it looks like there's a lot of kind of layout um, problems and performance. So this is why I left outside. But you can look, you can use the Radeon framework if you need the media carries, or yes, have a look at container carries or element carries as well.